Hello, so my name's Michael Conneely, and this is the third webinar in a series of chart sharings. The chart's going to be interpreted by Louise, which is fortunate as an echo on my voice. But first of all, I'd just like to share to the camera the charts that have been prepared. And let's see if we can just find them. Here they are. And these charts will be shown as Louise is speaking. So the charts of Rebecca, they start off with Rebecca's Vedic charts, and there's the Rashi, the natal chart. That's in South Indian style, below it is in North Indian style. There's a statement of Rebecca's planets in signs and nakshatras. Nakshatras are the lunar signs of Vedic astrology. Below that is Rebecca's Navamsha chart. That's her ninth harmonic chart, the chart of her soul and marriage issues, which shows the spiritual messages coming to her in this life. There, and you can review this and all the other charts so far by pausing the video. You can see the moon phase at the moment when Rebecca was born. And the moon phase is extremely important in Vedic astrology. It can totally override even the effect of the birth chart. Here we have the planets as indicators, the facets of Rebecca's destiny, and the important thing to note is that the moon is her Atmakarika, her soul indicator, the planet of greatest longitude. And it's really important to know that Rebecca is in a moon predictive period now. And so she's in an Atmakarika predictive period. And that's always been a difficult predictive period. Incidentally, I too am in moon Atmakarika predictive period or dasha. It's a difficult period, but one where one's reason for being here can be interpreted. And no doubt Louise will be mentioning something about what the characteristics of moon Atmakarika are. So there's a couple more charts about the strength and dignity of sorry, I seem to have lost. Here we go. Why have I lost this chart? Yes, the strength and dignity of Rebecca's planets, and notice that consistently the nodes of the moon have the greatest dignity, a fated life. Although in direction strength or Shadval, Saturn, Lord of Karma, is the strongest planet. I've interpolated a couple of additional charts that weren't in the presentations to members. And the first is that Rebecca sent in a question about why were so many of her parents and children have prominent planets in Ardra lunar sign. Yeah. And so I show here how Ardra lunar sign relates to Rebecca's chart. And the important thing to notice is that Rebecca has her sun in Revati lunar sign, the 27th lunar sign. So if you count to Ardra from Revati, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then using Nadi Nakshatra's analysis and Navtara Nakshatras, well, one of the things we come up with is that the 7th is a problematic lunar sign. From the point of view of Rebecca's sun, Ardra has the quality of slayer, vanquisher, and death. However, from the point of view of Rebecca's moon, which is in Punavasu, then actually it reveals that these difficult Ardra people are in one sense her potential great friend. If she can only learn to deal with the hard lessons that Ardra offers her Revati son, she will be greatly enhanced in developing the consciousness she incarnated to have. Her moon in Punavasu. So I threw that in response to Rebecca's preliminary question.
Thank you for that. That's really useful.
Oh, good. Okay, briefly, here is, I'll just make it smaller, Rebecca's Astro Account Western chart. Now, just a couple of things. Chiron is opposite Mars, and I think that's very important. There is clearly a wound, an existential wound around Mars issues, and I feel that there will be figures in Rebecca's life, maybe male, or maybe issues of masculinity that in fact are an existential wound to her. Notice moon is in the 12th. That means a difficult experience for a mother who was not stable and satisfied with her life. Notice this, the conjunction of Ketu, the South Node, and Uranus. That's actually significant. It's an energy of sudden revelation. And the thing is, it's actually affecting Rebecca's son now, this year. And indeed, those two were totally conjunct in Revati Nakshatra, where Rebecca's son is, at the end of January this year. And so a natal script is being thrown up now, right on top of Rebecca's son, to do with sudden declaration, revelation and declaration. I'm going now to Rebecca's Swiss Huber chart, psychodynamic astrology, and here the chart is drawn very strictly as to orbs, and this creates chart aspect shapes which can be interpreted to give facets, sub-personalities of Rebecca. Notice here a psychic eye, and the psychic eye is Jupiter trine Saturn, where each of those is semi-sextile Uranus. So Uranus is the apex planet, and again that is forefront, sudden and declarative. That is the nature of Rebecca's inherent psychic talent. She has Neptune square Venus, which is the concept of the ideal beauty, of ideal love. And Neptune is, of course, visionary and psychic. In itself, if it isn't, delusion, denial, drugs and alcohol, of course, it's negatives. And what do we find? If we go to the Huber predictive age points, now, today, the individuation age point, I only found this out this afternoon, is conjunct her Jupiter, and her nodal age point is conjunct her Neptune. The nodal age point is the whispers of your soul to you from the astro. The individuation age point is that part of your Radix chart, your egoic psychological nature, which is being highlighted now in terms of the unfoldment, the movement of the individuation age point. It starts off here on the ascendant and goes round the rim of the chart, going through the signs, through the houses, forming aspects of the planets, taking 72 years to go right round, and in Rebecca's case it's reached Jupiter, just as a nodal age point of the message of her soul, Neptune. And the important thing is that last year, I can't show you this, The two are actually on top of each other, just between, in the midpoint of Jupiter and Neptune. This confluence of the two age points only happens twice in a lifetime. And what does it mean? Well, Jupiter Neptune is imagination, but more than that, and especially as part of a psychic eye, it's psychism. And so if you add to that the activation of K2, the South Node, conjunct Uranus in revity on top of her Sun, and the apex of the psychic eye being Uranus, that means that this is a once-in-a-lifetime important period for Rebecca where her psychism is activated. She therefore has the challenge of integrating this at the time of her moon at Makarica, at the time when her consciousness will actually be scattered, and painfully so, where issues of mothering especially will be maybe even plaguing her, certainly arising. So it's a very important time for the development of Rebecca's mind and consciousness now and for the previous few months, maybe for the previous year. It only occurs once in a lifetime. It will change her life for good. She has to handle it right. It's not easy to handle one's mind, as I, who am in Moon at Makarica Dasha, just like Rebecca, know. We'll come to that. And Louise will be talking, no doubt, about Makarica. So we go on in the Huber analysis to nature versus nurture. Planets in signs are our nature, planets in houses are our nurture. Notice that the effect of Rebecca's nurture, her very earliest upbringing, distorted her quite a lot, made her far more cardinal to get noticed by mother, one would imagine. Notice that it made her far more fiery than is her real nature. And so there is a danger this could overstress her. In time in her life, stress the adrenals, and that would be typical for this. And above all, it reduced her psychism. But of course, that has been represented to her now. Okay, here indeed, and you can pause the recording if you want to look at it, is the house chart of nurture as opposed to nature. Notice the psychic eye has been wiped out by her earliest upbringing. There are other things one could say. Quite a lot of search figures created. Her consciousness is searching for the answer to this strange distortion she felt on birth as a tiny baby. Basically from the impact of her 12th house moon, her mother who was dissatisfied and not available for her, I would say. Lastly, before I hand over to Louise for the expert analysis, and hopefully without echo, the personal rays. Bruno and Louise Huber were great disciples of Alice Bailey, who used the 7 rays system that came down from Alexandria in Egypt. The 7 rays come from God, and we incarnate to work with some more than others. Notice that the nodal ray, which is the chief ray, is love and wisdom. That, in the ultimate analysis, when the chips are down, is why Rebecca is here, to manifest love and wisdom. That is the quality she must embrace when the going gets tough. But notice that there's 2 will and power rays. She will not find it easy to exert will and access power. She will need to heal that wound. And indeed, I'm hoping that when Louise has done her interpretation, and I maybe add something briefly, and there'll be time for questions, we could then even demonstrate art healing therapy, which potentially could be a quick sketch of oneself in problem mode, which might well be, I cannot exercise my will and power. And then a second quick sketch of me embodying my healed and vibrant essence, me expressing will and power. 2 quick sketches, and I know from doing this work how healing this approach can be one of the healing modalities we use. Okay, Rebecca, I'm now going to hand over to you. So I'm going to, in fact, if I can, let me see if I can get back to the sharing screen. I can't.
I can. There you go.
Right, am I on it? Okay, yes. So I'm just going to go back so that what you can see, hopefully, is Rebecca's natal chart in Vedic astrology. So we'll just go back to that and then hand over to Louise. And I do apologise if there's an echo to my voice.
I can just see Maggie.
I think what the problem is,
Flashing.
is
I can see
Michael, you're probably sitting quite close to Maggie, I think. And
I think that's right.
What's happening is that every time you're speaking, it's coming up with Maggie's picture, which shows that it thinks that the noise is coming from Maggie's. Yes, Maggie's microphone.
Well, we'll try and cure that. The next time for the fourth presentation. Okay, so over to you, Louise.
What's happening is, Michael, I can't actually see the chart. All I can see is Maggie's picture.
Okay, I asked Michael to white box himself, and he didn't do that, so I've white boxed.
But I am white boxed, actually. So
if you white box yourself.
And now I'll white box you if I can. That should be you white boxed. No, you didn't want that.
Can you white box yourself?
Right, I'm now white boxed. You should be able to see the chart share.
Can you see the chart?
I can see the chart, but what happens is it flashes between the chart and between your picture, Maggie. So
yeah, that's what's happening to me too.
Okay.
It's your microphone picking it up.
I will go out of the room.
Oh dear.
No, I don't mind going out of the room. I'm quite happy.
Oh, she's taking her laptop with her. She will hear your words nevertheless. We will spare the echo. Okay. Over to you, Louise.
Oh, that has worked. Oh, no, it hasn't. Okay. Well, I'm just going to have to go from the chart that I've got printed out, I think, because I can still see Maggie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I can see the chart. Well,
Great.
no, I can't. Okay, well, I'll just start because I think I have access to the chart, and I don't know if anyone else can see it or not. But so I'm going to go from the ascendant, Rebecca's ascendant, which is Cancer, which obviously sets the whole tone for the chart, because from Cancer being the first house, and obviously the other houses are all numbered from that. So Cancer ascendant. So I'll start with the first house. What does the first house represent? So it's duty, life purpose, appearance, well-being, character, tendencies, prosperity, strength, and health. Cancer is ruled by the moon. So with that, we've got a lot of sensitive energies coming up. Sensitivity, very protective, family, very important. Gentle, feminine in attribute, capable of achieving great heights in spiritual practices, and often quite shy. The Cancer ascendant, particularly, well, for Rebecca, it falls in the nakshatra of Pushami. So Pushami is ruled by Saturn, and here we see a balance between expansion and restriction. The ruling deity, I'm not too sure how to pronounce it, but it's Brihaspati. Have a shot. Which is basically is another name for Jupiter. So the ruling deity has a very Jupiterian force to it. So this combined with Saturn, here you see playing out the combination of expansion with Jupiter and karmic restrictions with Saturn. So with the ruler being Saturn of this nakshatra, I'd say there's probably quite a lot of lessons for Rebecca coming up with. Must learn non-attachment basically from things, and I think Rebecca has confirmed this for me as well, that she has had a tendency to, what we'd say, nourish to the extreme with people, to the point where you can give and give and give and burn yourself out in the process of doing that. So the lesson here is to know when to put some boundaries up basically, and give yourself personal space and room for your own development and growth. And of course remembering that you can't really go into healing other people and helping other people until you've established those boundaries and you've healed yourself. So what else I say about Cancer ascendants? So it's ruled by the moon, and Cancer ascendants can become very affected by the cycles of the moon. Very mysterious as well, changeable, can often be quite secretive, and I think that's just enhanced when we see the placement of Rebecca's moon going into the 12th house, with what the 12th house represents, which I'll get into as we go through. As a water sign, Cancers can tend to be very emotional, and there was quite a good little quote that I pulled out from one of Camilla Sutton's books. It says, "Water has the ability to boil as well as to freeze." So I think that really shows how changeable the state of water can be, and how it's always good to, I think, have the qualities of self-reflection, and again have those boundaries come up, self-awareness, where you're not constantly giving out and pushing yourself, because you're letting yourself open, I think, for these extremes to come through and for your energies to basically be all over the place. So I think you really need to establish that connection to self, that connection to a higher force that gives you those really strong roots. Otherwise I think you'll tend to be very, very emotional, very changeable, very subject to other people's emotions, other people's moods, affecting you quite dramatically. So I have a few more things to say, but I'm going to move on actually, I think, to the second house, because I'm aware of the time. I don't know, Rebecca, if you want to say if I've summed up your first house all right or not.
Yeah, you have actually, yeah. You've described perfectly the way it's affected me in my life so far, and also my lessons, which I feel that you've just gone through as well, which I'm learning now to actually nurture myself first and look after myself, because otherwise, like you say, I can't help anyone else until I'm okay. No. And that especially includes my children too.
Yeah, you give all your energy out and then you've got nothing left, I guess, to nurture yourself and to ultimately nurture other people as well. So.
Yeah.
There we go. Shall I summarise? I've got some buzzwords. I know Michael likes some buzzwords. So,
yeah, thank you.
So yeah, bearing in mind the nakshatra here of Pushami, so we've got that Saturn influence coming in with restriction, denial, delays, adversity, sorrow, but also great capacity for healing, nurturing, spirituality, intuitive, emotional. It will be an attraction to isolation, gentle and changeable. So I'm going to go on to the second house, Leo. So second house indicators we have here: wealth, speech, social relationship, accumulation of possessions and finances, ability to study, and food. So with Leo, I think what we find is a tendency to really like the best in life. There's a focus on commanding, directing. Leo is the leader, obviously ruled by the sun, defender, willpower, showmanship. I think what this shows actually, and if we look at the second house representing social relationships, with a Cancer ascendant, you tend to find someone who's maybe a bit more reserved, quite shy in their tendencies and sense of self. But then we go through to Leo. It's, well, not quite the opposite, but there are those, the polarities of that coming through in terms of being able to, I guess, put, maybe it's not the right turn of phrase, but to put on a show depending on what company you're keeping. So although your natural tendencies would be to be very shy, I think you have the ability to be talkative and to perform quite well in the spotlight when you have to. But ultimately, with your first house being Cancer, you probably don't feel very comfortable in those circumstances, but you can brave it out and you can sort of deal with it. I think it also shows a relation to second house indicators for wealth. You will be drawn towards the best things in life materially. We'll go through and see what materially what else is coming up in your chart, because it's not all expressed through this second house. But I think Leo does show that that liking, I suppose, for the material and that showmanship quality. So quite generous as well is one of the things that come up for the buzzwords of that. Possibly with a tendency to spend beyond your means. So would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, that what you've just said lastly is perfect. I've always spent beyond my means, definitely. And yeah, that you just described me perfectly, really, with how I deal with social situations, because on the deepest level I'm this very sensitive 12th house moon person who just wants to be alone, but I think I managed to put on a show and probably people think I'm a lot more confident than I am deep down inside, and I am very good at moulding myself according to who I'm with. So I'm not sure whether that's a good thing or not, and perhaps sometimes I lose myself, but yeah, it kind of covers up my sensitivities, definitely.
Well, just quickly to finish off, I meant to mention that the ruler of Leo is, of course, Sun, and Sun goes into the 9th house. And I'll talk more about that when I get to the 9th house. So we have to speed up a bit, I think. So 3rd house, Virgo, it's unoccupied, but we'll look at the ruler of Virgo, which is Mercury. And Mercury is going into the 10th house of career, and I am going to talk about that more when I get to the 10th house. So just touch on the 3rd house indications here. So 3rd house, house of siblings, mind, communication, memory, your immediate environment, including colleagues and friends. It rules short journeys and changes of location. So Virgo in the 3rd house, said to indicate actions and involvement in the material aspect of life, desire for material gains, yet with this can come dissatisfaction from them, gentle and studious in nature. So we find Virgo is quite a lot about perfection through purifying, serving, protecting, improving, quite analytical in nature, obviously with Mercury being the ruler, detailed and methodical. With Mercury going into the 10th house, house of your outward public life and career, shows a need to be successful and achieve. You'll crave high status and you really want to have a successful career and be driven towards creating that. So buzzwords for your third house are success, studious, gentle, a desire for the material, a methodical and analytical mind. Your communication tends to be fairly detailed. You like to be methodical. And I don't know if this is true or not, but there might be a tendency to surround yourself with what you might call Virgo people, so concerned with serving, protecting and improving their environments. So that's your third house. If you'd like to comment, you can, but you don't have to.
Well, I've never really thought much about my third house before, perhaps because it's unoccupied and I suppose I've concentrated on the other houses, but yeah, I can definitely relate to what you've said.
Good. So far, so good. All right, then.
Yeah.
So we'll move on to the fourth house. The fourth house is Libra, ruled by Venus. We've got the ruler of the fourth house going into the ninth house. Fourth house indicators your inner self, private life, home, good and bad karma brought into this life, mother and your relationship to her. The symbol of Libra always comes to my mind. It's one of the more prominent symbols. It just sums it up so perfectly, really, the balancing scales. So key concepts are, of course, balancing and resolving opposites and a focus on harmony. You have Saturn sat in your fourth house. Saturn, of course, is all about your life lessons, restrictions, difficulties, what we have to overcome. And it can be very harsh lessons, but I think ultimately very rewarding if we learn how to utilize the energies of Saturn within our lives and really pick up on what Saturn's trying to teach us rather than rebel against it on a egoic level. Saturn in your chart is retrograde, actually, which has a great tendency towards guilt and self-doubt. So I don't know whether you will recognize that when I talk a little bit more about the fourth house and what it represents. So early on in your life, I think Saturn might have brought you quite a lot of frustrations, discouragement, probably pessimism, lack of comforts, unhappiness, all tied in with what the fourth house indicates. But a saying that I've come across and I quite like, might give you a bit of comfort, is Saturn delays but always delivers. So
That's good to know.
Something for you to cling on to.
Yeah.
So the nakshatra that Saturn sat in is Vishaka, which is ruled by Jupiter. Saturn here forces the soul to learn from its experiences in life and change its outlook. In the Libra part of this nakshatra, which your Saturn is, it spans from 20 degrees Libra to 3 degrees 20 of Scorpio. Vishaka provides affluence, comfort, and pleasant experiences in life. You might find somewhat a churning of the mind here between the lower self and higher aspirations. Especially, I guess, with your Saturn being retrograde, it will have that tendency towards self-doubt. Saturn is, of course, how we focus, take responsibility and regulate our lives. So I'm going to talk a tiny bit about Saturn being, I've no idea how to pronounce it, but it's your Praktikaraka.
Okay.
Which indicates siblings, teachers and gurus in your life. And of course Saturn itself is the great teacher of cosmic truths. It's very much concerned with working through restrictions, hardships, turmoil, frustration, disillusionment. It's considered a malefic planet, but I think with Saturn the thing is that there's always purpose for its suffering. So if you have the understanding of that, I think it's always quite a comfort when you go through hardships that perhaps someone who isn't more spiritually inclined, they might not see the greater blessings of Saturn and be very much concerned with the here and now and the hardships that you're going through. So it's always worth trying to pay attention to the bigger picture there and realizing that Saturn is always pushing us onto our right path. And of course, once we allow Saturn to strip us of illusion, I've noted down here, we are shown the true reason for our birth and purpose in this lifetime. After understanding the teachings Saturn brings, we begin to move forwards to self-realization. So your keywords for your fourth house, concerned with inner peace and balance, responsibility and focus on home life, lessons on achieving balance, resolving opposites with fourth house themes. So your inner self, your private life, your mother. You might have had struggles with these as per Saturn's indications. Fourth house, obviously, with Libra being ruled by Venus, I think you'd really strive for harmony in your life, possibly liking home comforts and being quite house proud as well. So that's my very basic analysis of your fourth house. Okay, so we'll move on to the fifth house now. Fifth house is Scorpio, ruled by Mars, and you actually have the ruler Mars sat in the fifth house itself, which is said to be very good for what the fifth house represents, so creative self-expression, children, romance, education. But obviously we have to bear in mind the energies of Mars and what Mars represents. Mars is retrograde in your birth chart, so you might have found trouble with what Mars is all about. So your confidence, self-assertion might have been troubled. You might have found that possibly you let things build up within you until you reach a point of exploding, I guess, because you haven't had the confidence to express things at the right time. You might have found that competition can actually unnerve you rather than being something that strives or pushes you forward into wanting to achieve things. Instead, it might have the opposite effect in making you quite nervous and reserved. What else have I got here? So I'll talk a bit about Scorpio. So Scorpio, obtaining through transformation, seduction, investigation, fascination with the unknown, intuition, deep level of feeling, healing capacity. It's originally the 8th house, so there will be a focus on death here, occult power. It's a water sign, so very psychic and emotional. And with Scorpio, we tend to see the death of illusion. So very creative, or the capacity to be very creative with ruler of the fifth in the 5th house. Generally speaking, the ruler of the 5th in the 5th is meant to indicate happiness from the birth of children. But again, we do have to bear in mind the energies, I guess, of of Mars and Ketu within here. But if you can utilize the strength of Mars, you'll find a great deal of courage and confidence to face the spiritual trials and tribulations that are put in your path. Mars here is good for fighting restrictions which can cause trauma until it's learned how to harness these energies properly. The key concept is building and renewing relationships that increase prosperity. So we have Ketu here as well. Ketu, the south node of the moon, represents our spiritual purpose, transcendence, reorganization, unboundedness. The thing with Ketu is it tends to take on the characteristics of the planet associated with it. So in this case, we've got a conjunction with Mars. I thought it's quite interesting to note the Ayurvedic constitution of the two. So Ketu is Pitta, which is fire, and Mars is the same. So you've got a double Pitta energy going on here. So I think, again, it echoes back to your first house, and that you want to be wary, really, not to burn up and become too forceful or given to anger or quite belligerent with your energy. What else do we have? So I think what you've got going on here, it shows that beyond the physical and probably into the metaphysical, as per what Scorpio represents, you've got some very good energy going on here to be drawn on. Very good energies to help shatter illusion. Could at times be quite impulsive, and a bit of an exhausting energy at times. Again, you need to learn how to harness the energies of these planets in a positive sense. Mars for courage and leadership, giving you that power on spiritual quests. Scorpio, in Scorpio, that your old self is destroyed so a new one can be born. So I think altogether your fifth house is it's got a lot of potent energy going on in it, and I don't feel like I'm experienced enough yet to be able to properly diagnose it all. But I do get a sense just intuitively that there is a lot of powerful energy going on here. I don't know if Michael can add to that at all, because I feel like it's quite an important house. I don't want to miss out on things going on.
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
I can hear
Great.
you, yes.
And there's no echo. That's so wonderful.
Yeah.
Is that true that there's no echo?
Yeah, there's no echo.
Oh, so it was obviously Maggie being in the room, sadly. Ah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this is the fifth house. Yes?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Well, basically, I feel, I mean, the energy of Mars is, in a sense, spoiled by the conjunction to Ketu. It's said to make the person, sort of anti-authority or awkward. The two of them being there in Scorpio is obviously wonderful for psychism, but those two as malefics in the fifth house is very bad for children. I myself have Mars in the fifth house, and it either means that our children will find us an irritant or worse, or indeed that we might find our children, very abrasive. But of course, it's not only about children, it's also about creativity, and of course psychism, because the sign is Scorpio. And the amazing thing is that as we speak, Saturn has just gone, well, sort of direct. After being retrograde for a long time, it went stationary, and now all August, has hardly no forward movement. And the point is, it's right on top of Rebecca's Mars in Scorpio. And I firmly believe that what that means in Rebecca's case, I do believe this, is that now she should, or is called to, as it were, practically manifest those gifts of psychism that we analysed as being forefronted over the last few months. And those issues of consciousness that we said are forefront because she's in the Moon Dasha. In other words, they are the raw materials for the anvil. And I sincerely believe that now Saturn is going direct again, albeit it's immensely powerful because still virtually stationary. Now Rebecca is being called to be the blacksmith of her talents. Now, does that make sense, Rebecca?
Yes, it does really, and I feel like I've been stuck really over the past few months especially, and you know, I've got so much ambition, but then I've got this 12th house moon energy inside me that just wants to withdraw from the world.
Yes.
And I do feel that, you know, in the past year my psychic abilities have absolutely exploded, and I'm always wondering what to do about them, whether, you know, every day I've got the play going on in my mind saying, should you do reading, should you start doing mediumship, and I don't know. I don't know what I'll do.
What I feel is now is the time. I mean, this image of the blacksmith comes to my mind. You need to use these raw materials to create form.
Yeah.
And also I'm drawn to look at your moon in mentalistic Gemini.
Yeah,
you see, you'll always be questioning and doubtful. And I feel this period of your Mercury moon dasher that you're in, so Mercury is the ruler of Gemini, you know, can only be, and this is so easy to say and so immensely hard to do, the time when in a sense you stop doubting and questioning and go beyond them to be the blacksmith.
Yeah. Well, hopefully I can do it.
I do sincerely think that's what you're called to do now that Saturn is no longer retrograde in the heavens. Over to you, Louise. Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you.
It's okay.
I think to summarise your 5th house, I think you do have, I think there is great strength there to draw upon, ultimately, to self-realise, I think, and to have a tenacity towards being able to let go and probably to help guide others towards that as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So one final point I think I've got for your 5th house of Mars is your Darakaraka, which indicates marriage partner, wealth and business. So I don't know if you'd feel that from what we've said about Mars, Mars energy, whether you'd be able to relate to that with partnership, really. Having quite a Mars energy. Does that mean, Michael, if Rebecca's Darakaraka is Mars and Mars is retrograde, does that mean in fact the energies will be the opposite of what Mars should be about? Or does it just manifest in a slightly different way, or is it delayed, or how does that work?
Well, what I believe is that Mars's Darakarika, or indicator for the marriage partner, in the love relationship, means that it will be someone with a strong Mars type of energy, and the fact that it's retrograde means that Rebecca incarnated with having to give very special attention to this. It's not at all an easy issue. You see, with Saturn in the 4th house of home and mother, Ketu and Mars in the 5th house of children, and Mars being the Darakarika, it means that the whole home offers very difficult lessons. There's 3 malefics in a row there. And inescapably, this is Rebecca's karma. That's what it's saying. I mean, it's on the nodal axis, this Mars. The nodal axis in Vedic astrology is the indicator for our incarnational destiny. In fact, the Ketu end of it, the south node end of it, is what we bring in from previous life.
Is that why I feel like I live in a concentration camp?
Well, that would certainly, yes. I mean, there's very heavy energies. Although, as Louise so rightly says, you would love a harmonious home, 4th house Libra. I can't see you getting it.
Well, also, my husband and all my children have lots of planets in Magha too. And with my Revity sun, this is the worry that I may not ever fulfill my potential because I'm just going to be a slave.
Well, and also, not only that, you see, Revity and Magha, I don't know if you knew, are a forbidden combination.
Yeah.
You knew that, did you?
I think, yeah, I remember you saying that before, yeah, so.
It is painful because, you see, my own son is a Magha. He has a Magha sun, and I'm a Revity moon. And I do so much. I mean, I can see what he's trying to do in his life, wonderful stuff. But it seems somehow so, I don't know, invasive, abrasive, crushing. And that's no criticism of him. It's just that I have a super sensitive Revity moon.
Yeah, and it's very difficult to handle.
Yes, it is a forbidden combination.
I feel worn out. Every night I just feel worn out and like I've not got any time to get on and do what, fulfill my purposes in other ways. But hopefully.
Presumably children will be starting school full time in a bit.
Yeah, my eldest 2 children are at school full time and my youngest daughter starts play school next year. So I think I've definitely got another year of it, how it is now.
And then you'll have some protected time. I remember when my son started school, I could achieve so much. I did nothing else while he was at school. I simply did my work. I didn't do anything of any other nature and got a lot done. Yeah,
I'm really looking forward to being able to get on in the morning and do some work, because by the time it gets to the evening, sometimes it's 9 and 10 o'clock, I'm too tired to start doing work then, because I'm up at 6. So.
But nevertheless, I am convinced that now you are the blacksmith. Now you definitely are called to and will make concrete your psychic talent. And
well, I am actually...
Yes?
Sorry, I was just going to say I'm actually setting up a meditation group in 4 weeks now.
Yes, I was just going to add, indeed, it's not just psychism, it's also consciousness, because it's Moon Dasher. So, of course, that's perfect for what you're doing. And, I mean, if you possibly could combine that with doing psychic readings, I feel you should cease vacillating and questioning, you know, the moon in mentalistic Gemini,
Yeah.
and determinedly sort of ignore the doubts and chart a course. Yes,
And
you should. Oh,
yeah, it's the
easy
worry
to
of
say.
it's the worry of exposing myself, I suppose, that, you know, the real me.
Yes, the 12th house
Already
moon.
think I'm very strange.
Yes, well, again, in this proposed healing we've got lined up, you know, for
Yeah.
the end of the webinar. I don't know if we'll get time now because we've only got half an hour left, but never mind. You know, that is one possibility. Draw yourself hiding away, and do you like the look of it? And then draw yourself radiant and assertive.
Yeah. Okay. Thank
Okay,
you.
over to you, Louise.
Thank you. I don't know whether we should go through the chart a bit more casually because I'm wary of the time, and I just want to pull out some of the most important bits that I was coming across. So, Jupiter in the 6th house, Sagittarius. It's conjunct Neptune, which I don't know if we can see on that chart there, but I think really this shows your connection to the psychic world, and Jupiter being guru and teacher. I think it does show your potential for, and of course healing, 6th house, for being a healer and using those really powerful Jupiter energies combined with the psychic eye, as Michael was saying, of Neptune, for some really important good, actually. I think I wrote about the nakshatra of Jupiter, Purvashada, which is key concept motivated to be liberated from ineffective behaviors by cleaning out non-value added activities in order to reinvigorate the core of who they are and achieve their full potential. I think Jupiter in the 6th house shows really good counselling abilities as well, so being able to help other people through their traumas and issues and healing issues as well. So yeah, I do think in time you will be a really great teacher and counsellor, and probably be able to quite philosophical with that as well, with Jupiter. You know, it's good for spirituality, good for probably helping people in weaker positions to heal, whatever level that might be, through sort of counselling abilities. And if you look towards, I just find my chart, your 10th house, which is obviously a indication of career, you have Mercury, Saturn there, and that's the ruler of the 3rd house going into the 10th. So I think you do have strength of communication there. I don't know how it's going to come about, whether it's going to be through writing or speaking or both, but that combined with Jupiter, I think, does point towards you being able to do a lot of good for people and healing people. And then if we look towards Sun in the 9th house, Pisces, Sun is your, now I'm going to say this wrong because I don't know where it is in my notes now, but it's not your Atmakaraka, it's the other one.
Amatyukaraka.
That's the one. Which indicator of profession. Your advisors and counsellors, and indicates your profession. So it's in Revati, Nakshatra, which, you know, is the 27th Nakshatra. It's at the end of the zodiac cycle. It's ushering people back towards God. It's this theme of self-realization, ultimate truths in life, really the deepest water of spirituality, I guess you could call it. So I think you really will benefit in your profession from nourishing and sustaining other people, reducing their challenges, and your prosperity will increase, I think, when you put that in context with helping other people. That I'm sort of jumping about all over the place a bit here, but that does tie in for the notes that I was making on K2. I know we've covered this in the 5th house, but if I can find it. Give me a second. So we've got Rahu in the 11th and K2 in the 5th. So Rahu in the 11th is actually meant to be, I think, one of the best places for Rahu to go. I mean, Rahu is exalted in the 11th house. It's meant to be very good for material purpose and material success and financial reward. And of course K2 in the 5th then is, I think you will have an ability to be a very good writer, probably quite an unusual writer as well. Maybe presenting sort of old themes in a new way, having a new spin on it. K2 is very good for, you know, abstract knowledge and disconnection from the physical, and of course going towards the more psychic realms and having a deeper understanding of life. So I don't know if I've covered everything. Obviously I haven't, because I've got a lot of pages of notes here, but I'm wary of the time. I don't know, is there any questions you want to ask Rebecca, and maybe I can try and answer them, or go back through certain houses that you're not happy with? Or
I suppose the one house I've not really read much around yet is also my 8th house, because that's unoccupied. It's 8th house Aquarius. So I just wonder what notes you may have on that, or any buzzwords or anything.
I have both. So so yeah, 8th house Aquarius ruled by Saturn. Yeah, it is unoccupied, but we have the ruler Saturn sitting in the 4th house. So yeah, I don't have this noted down, but I think I remember reading that that's actually meant to be. Oh no, that was the 7th house. 7th house. They're both ruled by Saturn, and the ruler of Capricorn going into the 4th house. Is meant to be good for married life and home comfort. So I thought that might offer you some sort of sense of security. I don't know. So let's go through this 8th house. So 8th house indications: the unknown, transcendence, transformation, chronic illness, the occult, life's mysteries, death, longevity, and afflictions. Aquarius is belief in the ideal. Focus is on innovation. Scientific, humane, innovative, intuitive, political interest, shrewd, sympathetic, and accommodating. I think what you see in your 8th house is unraveling the mysteries of the unknown, basically. It's again tying in with this theme of using your knowledge for the benefit of, for all. not just yourself and your own personal growth in this life, but for the benefits of the masses, basically. You had the ruler of the 8th house going into your 4th house, could show loss of connection to mother, living in a foreign land, which I know you're not at the moment, but maybe you will. And both the 4th and the 8th house actually are concerned with moksha, so awareness of past life connections, and again drawing you really towards a deeper understanding of your life. So my buzzwords were, or buzz phrases: innovation for the betterment of others, unraveling life's mysteries for the betterment of all, quite unconventional, and past life connections. So I don't know if Michael has anything to add on that, because I'd be interested to hear as well.
What I would say is that Pushyami ascendant, and therefore Cancer ascendant, of course, always have the 7th and the 8th in Saturn ruled signs, Capricorn, Aquarius, and are seen as, difficult for relationships, difficult for marriage. Famously, of course, Prince Charles has exactly that, Cancer, Pushyami, Lagna, and his, the marriage issues in the earlier part of his life were famous. I do feel that it is standard that marriage is a difficult script for Cancer ascendants, and you see, Saturn is friends with Libra's ruler Venus. And Saturn is in Libra, so Saturn is very well placed. And personally, I would sort of be looking for gains from psychism, and even on a sort of different note, death and inheritance in Rebecca's life from this. And the very last thing I would say is, I'm sort of questioning about Mars, because Mars is conjunct Ketu, and in Rebecca's Western chart, Mars is opposite Chiron. There we are, Mars going up to Chiron. And I wonder if this retrograde Mars and the Mars opposite Chiron point to the need for Rebecca to do healing and empowerment work around Mars. It ties in with the will and power Alice Bailey Ray's, that 2 of her Alice Bailey Ray's depictions identified in the Huber breakdown that we saw at the beginning. I feel that Rebecca's will and power and assertion and expression of herself depend on the healing of this Mars issue. And indeed, Saturn is on top of Mars, transiting Saturn is on top of Mars now. And I was suggesting that maybe now is a time when an important step could be made in awareness and perception of that, and in conscious charting her way forward for realistic goals of her group and certain psychic readings, for example, with the cooperation of her family, asking the family to support a more directed Mars expression. And I think, we've now sort of theoretically 1/4 of an hour left. We did mention the possibility of doing a drawing, either of an unhealed state or of a target healed state. I mean, Rebecca, would you feel it would be helpful for you, either now or when this session is finished, to pick out any of the threads we've spoken of, and if so, which, for a drawing?
I think my biggest perceived problem that I need to heal is probably my terrible, terrible lack of confidence, because it really does stop me from moving forward, and it has done so many times in my life. And my nervousness when I speak, I feel I'm a much better writer than speaker.
I mean, on the issue of art, and maybe Louise, would it be worth doing a simple sketch drawing of Rebecca Confident?
Yeah.
Would you like to be a human or a squirrel? Or
I don't mind metamorphosizing.
I can cater to any tastes you have in that regard, so just let me know.
Probably something funny.
A very confident squirrel. Okay.
Yeah.
No, it certainly will. I think I've never done any kind of art therapy, and it might seem a little bit unusual, I guess, because I do have a lot of interests in healing. And
are a beautiful illustrator.
Yeah, of course.
But I've never merged the two together. So that'd probably be something very interesting to explore.
I'm sure you could really help people.
Yeah. I think my thing has been, and I don't know if someone will cover this when they look at my chart, is that I am such a perfectionist. I get really irritated when people can't draw things.
Oh, no, I'll not do one then.
So I need to let that go and just let it be about the expression instead. But
if you were indeed to very kindly do a simple sketch of confident Rebecca, it could be helpful for Rebecca now. It could help her heal if she kept referring to it, but carrying a copy around with her or whatever. It's possible.
Yeah.
Could I say, can you hear me?
Hello.
Yeah,
a couple of things. I think it could be really helpful for, by the way, it's great reading. I think it could be really helpful, you doing a drawing, but sometimes I think us doing our own drawing can be amazingly powerful, and it's getting over, as you said yourself, Louise, it's getting over that perfectionism, because sometimes when we do our own drawing, we get, it's the way we put things down on paper that can be really interesting in terms of hang on, I'll just white box you. We can perhaps draw ourselves really, really small and realise, oh, I've made myself really small, I'm really dark, or I've got a cloud over me. And then you could ask, okay, what needs to happen, or what do I need, what kind of qualities do I need to be different, and then from that do another drawing of it. So I think either way could work, that you doing a drawing for somebody else, which could be very healing, as like often tarot cards are, and also Rebecca doing it on her own. I think both would work really well.
I'd really like to do it, yeah. If Louise is not going to fall out with me over my drawing.
No.
Okay, well, what we have to do now is draw threads together, and just briefly mention the fourth webinar. So drawing threads together, I felt very moved by your presentation, Louise. I felt you transmitted such caringness, such calm, such carefulness, and I found it accurate and so helpful. I feel you've got a very considerable repertoire which you've built up since you started on the course.
Thank you.
And going beyond that, yes, it would be wonderful if you used your gifts as an artist, a professional artist, to help people and work with them with that. And I believe you have, I think, special potential as well in the link over between astrology and Ayurveda. I think that's something that you're very interested in, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm going to incorporate it yet, but yes, I am.
These will come, and as I say, your I think your reading presence, the presence of your delivery was so wonderful. I mean, I was very harassed because of the echo issue at the beginning, but I felt so calmed, and I feel your rationality was transmitted to me, and I found it very helpful.
Thank you. I didn't feel very calm, so that was nice that it came across.
What Michael said, I totally agree with. I felt it was very measured, and even when you were talking about aspects of the chart that were challenging, you deliver things with a lot of sensitivity and empowerment.
Thank you. Well, I've got a lot more notes, so I think what I'll try and do is type them up at some point, and I will email them to Rebecca and anyone else that wants to have them as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Because it just wasn't enough time to get through it, really.
No,
I didn't
but I
want
feel
to
you did very well.
Thank you. Didn't want to be too overwhelming with it as well.
No, I think it could have been. I mean, I feel we ended up with a very clear definition of the task Rebecca has now, and the important, in fact, or probably once in a lifetime crossroads that she encountered starting a few months ago. And so, all our prayers go for Rebecca's success.
Oh, thank you.
In overcoming the issues of diffidence and lack of confidence that she mentions, and as I say, becoming the blacksmith. So, all success to you, Rebecca. I'm so glad you're starting the group, and I'm so glad and hope that you will, start to do the readings for people.
Yeah, I might try. I might
you mustn't say might.
One thing I'd say, Rebecca, is sometimes we wait for the confidence to do something. And I think sometimes we just have to do it anyway, and confidence comes in the doing of it.
And also, I think, Rebecca, you're a lot better than you think you are at things.
Definitely.
I remember you did a quick interpretation of my mum's chart, and you said it was all just intuition based, and I thought it was absolutely fantastic. So
thank you.
You just need to have that belief.
Sometimes when I try to connect and I try to do a reading for someone, I just can't get anything, or I get it all wrong, and then other times it's as though I get this raging energy come over my body and I can channel all this stuff, and I suppose I'm worried that somebody will pay me to do a reading and I just won't get anything, or it'll be total useless information like what type of tea they like or something.
I'm sure it'll come with practice and confidence.
Yeah.
I do believe so. And the message from your charts is unequivocal as to your gifts.
And I'm so connected to the spirit world as well, and I do often get people talking to me. I was at the park the other day near a lady, and there was somebody, I could see she was struggling, and I was getting a message for her, that it was obviously a loved one that had passed, but I never said anything to her. But maybe I should start doing that, but you never know what reaction you're going to get from people, do you?
That's a tricky one, giving unsolicited, yes.
Yeah, just walking around saying, by the way, so-and-so's talking to me.
Yes, I tend to shy away from that. Very difficult. Well, okay, we must now, congratulate ourselves on how wonderful, I believe, the reading is, and especially to Louise for her the great coherence and comprehensiveness. And next week, in a fortnight's time, webinar 4, if you wished, Louise, I could offer an interpretation of your chart.
Yes, that'd be lovely.
Ah.
Thank you.
So I'll obviously beforehand circulate your charts to everyone and the sort of standard meanings, as background information for them to start thinking about what is the interpretation of Louise's chart. So, I feel this has been a most worthwhile session, tremendously helpful for Rebecca, which is what really counts. And so with that, I'll say good night and have a good day to Lisa in Australia, and good afternoon, I think, to Salongo. Okay, bye-bye and thank you.
Bye. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.